Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert lab. This is the video number 18. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working to secure our Active Directory and our domain and our workstations, actually all of our network. So we have began a series of videos to secure a lot of things. The first thing we have discussed is to secure our Active Directory, and then the second thing is to secure our Windows 10 environment or Windows 10 workstations. We have discussed in the previous video a lot of best practices. These are published by the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. So these are all best practices to secure your Windows 10 workstations. We have discussed in the previous video a lot of things. This was part 1 of the video, and now we will discuss or we'll continue working with the best practices for securing your Windows 10. This is the second part, so let's continue from where we have stopped the last time. So the last time we have stopped at this recommendation: accounts must be configured to require password expiration. So any local account on a Windows 10 machine should have the option password never expire to be unchecked. This for the active accounts. As for the inactive accounts, this will not apply. So let's see our workstation Windows 10 and see if we have any local user on this machine that have the option of password never expire checked. So let's see if this is the case, because password never expire will be a security issue, because the password can be known by the hacker, or the password is not frequently changed. So this will ease the job for the hacker to hack your account or to hack your password. So let's see what are the accounts that are expired, or what are the accounts that have the option of password never expire. So here we have our computer management console, and here we can see that we have a lot of we have about 5 users local on this machine. One of them is the default account. We will not touch this account. It is used by the Windows, so we will not use it, or we will not change anything in it. So we'll leave this as it is, and this is also disabled, so there is no risk for checking this one, or no risk from using it. And now we have the guest account. This is also disabled, so these 2 accounts are disabled and they have the option of password never expire checked, but we will leave them because they are disabled, so there is no problem from them. Okay, and actually these are default accounts by the Windows and they are disabled by default, so we will not do anything considering these 2 accounts. As for the other 2 accounts, one of them is the default local administrator. We should uncheck this, because the local administrator accounts is the local administrator account is a very important account, and its password should be changed frequently. So we will uncheck this option. And this is the second local administrator account. Also we will uncheck this option here. So these 2 local administrator accounts should have their password changed frequently. Okay, and this can be done automatically using the Microsoft Labs solution. We have discussed this before. So we need to uncheck this from the local administrator account, or the built-in local administrator account, and the second local administrator account. As for the last user, which is WDA, utility activity or something, this is also related to the Windows, so we will not touch this user or the guest user or the default account. We will leave these 3 accounts without any change, but we will change the local administrator's password never expire option. So you will uncheck this and you will uncheck this. So let's wait and see how we will do this. We will uncheck it. So here is saying, actually also if you see here the description, he say for each active account. So he's saying that this should be done to active accounts. As for disabled accounts, this will not apply, but I am a little bit more to make it more secure. Even the disabled accounts should some of the disabled accounts should not have the password never expire option checked. like for example the disabled local administrator or the disabled built-in local administrator account. So we will uncheck this. He is saying here for all active accounts, as we can see here. So he's telling us to have not this option for any active account. So we will uncheck this for the local administrator because we will use it, and the second local administrator also we will uncheck it. Okay, and we will leave the guest and the default account and the WDA utility account. All of these we will leave this as it is. We will not change it. Okay, as for the guest or for the default account. And for WDA utility, no, we will not do this. So I will cancel it because this is the guest account, default account, and WDA utility. So we will change this option or uncheck option of password never expire for these two accounts. Okay, so let's continue to the next or the upcoming recommendation. Permissions for system files and directories must confirm two minimum requirements. So here he is giving a recommendation that there should be some permissions for users or for local users and groups on the partition C, okay, which is the partition that has the system installed on it. So you need to have certain permissions to certain users on the partition C or on the operating system partition, and you should have your group policy or to apply something called let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users disabled. So you need to have in your group policy in your domain to have this option, network access let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users. This option should be disabled. So you need on all of your Windows 10 workstations, okay, to apply this group policy to let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users. So let's see what this mean. What is this option mean? Let everyone. So he is saying let everyone permissions to, let me show, I need to have it permissions apply to anonymous. Let me show you all. Sorry guys, because I have a little bit of a flu. Just a moment, let's reload. You will reload again. Actually I have something with the internet, but anyway, let's see this one. Just a moment. So here this is the option of or the group policy. So we'll apply a group policy and activate this option on it, let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users. What is this policy? This policy determines what additional permissions are granted for anonymous connections to the device. If you enable this policy, anonymous users can enumerate the name of the domain accounts and shared folders and perform certain other activities. So what we mean by this, any anonymous connection to the workstation, if any user or any device or any anonymous device try to connect to your Windows 10 workstation, he will be able to do some things. First of all, he can change the domain accounts and change the shared folders and perform certain activities. This capability is convenient. For example, when an administrator wants to grant you access to users in a trusted domain that does not maintain a reciprocal trust. Anyway, by default it is disabled. Okay, the disabled best practices here, let's see, this is what is by mean by let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users. So here anonymous users are granted some permissions. Okay, so what we will do, or best practice, is to disable this. Why? Because this gives the users or gives the connected device to the workstation a lot of rights. So we need to disable this, because the anonymous user or the anonymous device that will connect to my Windows 10, for example, if I am on another workstation and I'm connecting to this device remotely or my workstation remotely, I will have a couple of things to do on it. So we need to disable this kind of right. So this is why a best practice here, we can see Microsoft is saying the best practice is to disable this kind of policy, okay, because this policy, as we said here, it is granted, or what it will do, it will grant anonymous users the ability to change or play with the domain accounts and the shared folders and perform other activities on the machine. So he can change shared folders on my machine, he can play with my accounts and do other activity. Okay, he's saying that this is convenient when an administrator wants to grant access to users in a trusted domain that does not maintain our reciprocal trust. So if I am, or I have another domain, okay, and the other domain users want to connect remotely to my shared folders in my domain, so by allowing this right, or enable this group policy, the users from the other domain can access my shared folders and my things. But this is very dangerous, because even though there is no trust between the two domains, but this is not a best practice. This can be done temporarily if you need some users to access your domain without having a trust, okay. But actually also I do not prefer this kind of solution. You can grant certain users certain permissions to your shared folders, even if they are from another domain, okay. But actually also if there is no trust, you cannot do this thing. So the best solution is to enable this option. If you need users from other domain to connect to your shared folders in your domain, you can access, or you can open this for this permission for a certain amount of time and then disable it completely. So this is why we need to disable this kind of, or the best practice is to disable this kind of permissions, and they are or this group policy, and it is disabled I think by default. Okay, so let's see. So now we have this disabled, and this will be applied to all of our Windows 10 workstations. Now we need to see if our C partition or our Windows 10 operating system partition need to see the rights on it. What users have right on this machine, okay, or have right on this partition, and he is giving some recommendation for what are the users or the groups that will have rights on the C partition or the operating system partition. Let's see what is the recommendation. So if we go down, so first of all we will check if this option is enabled or not in our default domain policy. Okay, so this is one of the things we need to make sure it is already enabled, and then we will check the partitions. So here he is giving some recommendation to have your C partition, to have allow and do not inherit from none, okay, and to apply this, or to have allow on the C partition for the administrators group, local administrators group, full control over this folder and subfolders, and system user, this is a user in the Windows 10, to have full control over the folder and subsystems, subfolders and files. And for the normal users or for the local users on the machine, they can have only read and execute on the C partition. Okay, so can only read and execute. As for the authenticated users, these are the users that are authenticated by the machine. So if, for example, if you have a domain account and the user type the username or the user logged in successfully to the machine, so he is now authenticated, or he is now authorized to access the machine. So he is put in a group called authenticated users. So authenticated users can modify subfolders and files only. This is only on the C, so it is to modify subfolders and files, not the main folders. As for authenticated users, they can create folders, append the data, this folder only. Okay, so authenticated users will have modify permissions on the subfolders and files only. As for also the authenticated users, they can create folders. This is very normal, or it is very logic, because the authenticated users should create folders, okay, So this is something very normal. Anyway, so this is the recommendations by the Department of Defense and Defense Information System Agency to have on the C partition those groups and users to have these permissions. We will check and see if my POW workstation have this permissions on them. And as for the C program files, there is another rights or another permissions. We will check them one by one. So let's see. So we will see if we have these permissions on the C partition, and for the C program files or on the program files folder, and for actually the Windows. So we have the C partition as a whole. We will check the permissions on it, and the C program files and the C Windows folder. So let's see, we will check them one by one. So we will right click the C partition, and then we will select the security tab and then the advanced option or the advanced button. Let's see, right click and double click and then right click the C partition and then properties, and then the security tab, and then we will click on the advanced button and see the permissions. So here if we open advanced, here you can see that if we check this, so this is the administrator, it's having the allow option, full control, inherited from none, and this folder and subfolders and files. So this is exactly what is in the PDF, and then the system has full control, none, these folders, subfolders and files. As for the users or the local users group, they have read and execute, none, this folder, subfolders and files. Authenticated users modify, none, subfolders and files only. Authenticated users create, append this folder. So this is the default, by the way. I didn't add any of these. These are already created and added by default when you install Windows. So this is added by default. So I didn't add any one of these groups or give them any one of these permissions. So the best practice is to leave the default permissions and users and groups as it is for the C partition. Okay, this is one for the C as a whole. Let's see the C program files folder and the C Windows folder. Okay, and this is how we can check it on a graphical interface. You can check these permissions using the command prompt or the command window. Let's see how we can do this. So here we can check that they are all the same. If you check these are the same permissions that is listed in the PDF, so all of these are the same. So you need to make sure that your Windows 10 workstations have on the C partition or on the operating system partition these local users and groups and these rights. Okay, so we have this on the C partition, so we are good to go. We have all of these are there. So we have the C partition, and then we have program files. Let's see also if we have the program files and the C Windows folders have the same or have this listed users and their respective permissions. You can list all of the users and their permissions using a command line called ICA CLS. Okay, and then type the folder or the partition you need to get the rights on. So let's see, we'll go and see the permissions. So let's go and click on this and then open the command prompt, run, and then type cmd, then press enter, and then type the command and then press enter. So here we can see he will list the users and the respective rights. It is written in a certain way. It's not maybe it's not understandable by us, but these are the same if you check it from the graphical interface. So we will see our PDF and check if these are what it is stated in the PDF. So I will see it they are the same. Okay, so we can check here that these are the users and their respective rights. Okay, we can see that for example, built-in administrators, OICIF. If we can go and check on the workstation, let's see if we have the same permissions or not. But anyway, you will see that they are the same, or that the same users and groups listed in this PDF is already done on my POW workstation, okay, because these are the default users and the default permissions on the C partition, okay. So we need to check this option, let everyone permission apply to anonymous users. You will see that I have applied it to my default domain policy. Let's see this. Anyway, so we will check the permissions and you check if they are the same as listed in the PDF, and then we will go to the default. Let's go there for the default domain policy, right click and edit, and go to Windows setting and then security options. Okay, so policies, Windows setting, and then security options or security setting, and then local policies, and then security options. Okay, and see if we have network. Let's see here, if you check this here, you can see that let everyone permissions apply to anonymous users are disabled. Okay, so this is disabled by default, so we have this option already disabled. Okay, so it is already disabled. You can see the explanation if you need to know what this group policy do. Sorry guys. So here we have this already done. Then we need to check the upcoming or go further in our PDF. So let's go further. Then we can see here that he is saying that Internet Information System IIS and its subcomponents must not be installed on a workstation. This service or these components or this application are installed on a server or a workstation to host a website or to host an internet website. Okay, this component should only be installed on a server, so you cannot make your workstation, or you cannot host, or you cannot create a website on a normal workstation. You should create a website or an internet website on a server, because the server is more accredited and it could be secured more, and its design and its security should be more than a normal workstation. So best practice is to not host or create a website on a workstation. And how we can create a website? By installing these services, or information internet system service. By installing this service on a server or on a workstation, you can be able to create a website and publish it to the internet. Okay, so best practice is to not create or host a website on a workstation. You can do this on a server, okay, not a normal workstation. So we can check this by going to Program and Features and see Windows features and see if we have this service installed or not. Okay, so let's go and see. So if you have it there already, you can uninstall it, but anyway we will go and see if this service is installed or not. So here we go, we will go and open the control panel and then Programs and Features, and then we will have turn on features, okay, and then Windows features, and let's see Internet Information Service. It is not checked, so we don't have it installed on the machine. Okay, so this is one. Let's continue with the recommendations. If you go further, here we can see that he is saying that you should not have SNMP protocol installed on your system. This protocol is used to gather information from devices in your network. So you can have a program or a software that needs to gather data or monitor your devices in your network. So this protocol is used for this purpose. So this protocol is used in a company or with the help of a software or application. So there is application, and this application uses this protocol to monitor your devices and get data from them. Okay, so this is protocol is used for specific applications to monitor your network, and this could be installed on a server, okay, not on a normal workstation. And this protocol should also be secured, as is saying here. The vulnerability says that it does not support security features and encrypting passwords. Okay, so even though also if you have an application that will monitor your network and your devices and gather information from them, you should take note that it should not use the SNMP protocol. I think there are more secured protocols to use to monitor and get information from your devices in your network. Let's see if we can go and see or to Google what is the SNMP protocol. So SNMP protocol, let's see here. It is a internet standard protocol for collecting and organizing information about managed devices on IP networks and for modifying the information to change device behavior. Okay, anyway, so it is used to collect and gather information about devices in your network that are working with IP, or the devices that has an IP address. Okay, so it is widely used in network management tools and network monitoring tools. So this is what I was talking about. Okay, I think there is significant, or it was developed, are more secure protocols. It was the first one to use was SNMP version 1 protocol. Now we have SNMP version 2 and version 3, which have more improvements in performance and flexibility and security. So I think if you need to use such tools for network management or network monitoring, and they should use the SNMP, they should use version 2 or version 3. Okay, anyway, this does not apply to our workstation, because our workstation will not have this kind of tools installed on them. This could be installed on a server, okay, to see or to manage my network or to monitor my network. So even if you will have it installed on a server, you need to make sure that you are using SNMP version 2 or 3 protocol. Okay, so this is what is the simple management protocol. Let's go and see if this is installed on my workstation or not. And he says that does not require security features such as encrypting passwords or traffic or data. So this is why it is not secure. It's not secure. The transfer of data from and to the devices working with this protocol is not encrypted. Okay, so here we will see. We can go to the C Windows system folder and see if there is SNMP application, or we can check the Windows features and see if we have SNMP protocol installed or not. So let's go. This is C Windows, then System 32. Let's see if we have any SNMP installed or not. We can check, or we can search the folder from here. So here we can see that I don't have any SNMP protocol or SNMP program or application. So I'm trying to search it. Even I can search it from here anyway. So we will go and see, or I will check it also from up there. If you see there is something SNMP or something, but anyway, we have two. We have SNMP trap.exe. I don't know if this is related to the SNMP, but we will check the Windows features and see if we have SNMP installed or not. So this could be an SNMP program, but we will double check from the Windows features and see if we have SNMP protocol installed or SNMP application protocol installed or not. So we'll open the control panel, and then we will go to programs and features, and then turn on features. Here we will see that we don't have this simple management protocol. We don't have this. Okay, so it's not installed even by default on the Windows 10 LTSC Enterprise 2019 system. It's not there. We can see there is simple TCPIP and SNMP. So these are the only two things that appears here. So we don't have simple management protocol. Okay, so now we are good to go. So there it is. Okay, we don't have simple management protocol, so let's continue. We'll go down further. Here, simple TCPIP services must not be installed on the system. I have showed you now from a couple of seconds this on my machine. What is the simple TCPIP services? Let's Google and see some protocols, and also all what are stated now from this kind of protocols or services, they should be disabled or uninstalled because they do not support security features such as encrypting passwords or the traffic between the devices. So let's see what is simple TCP/IP services. We can Google it. Okay, simple TCP/IP services. Are used for testing functionality of the TCP services. These services are not required to perform essential network operations, but the vulnerabilities in them could be exploited by hackers to perform denial of service or bandwidth hogging attacks. So simple TCP/IP services are used for testing. Okay, testing the TCP/IP, or testing your network, or testing the TCP or the protocols or TCP services. Anyway, he's saying here that these services are not required to perform essential network operations, so they are only for testing purposes. And they said before, they have vulnerabilities. The hackers could use them to do a kind of attack called denial of service and bandwidth hogging attacks. So anyway, we will see, or this is a recommendation to disable this kind of service or to have this kind of protocol uninstalled from the machine. So let's see if I have it already installed on my machine or not. So we'll go further, and it is not installed by default, by the way, so it's not enabled. This is are only enabled, or you should enable it only if you are testing your TCP/IP protocol in your network, and you should install it and then uninstall it after you finish your work. Okay, so now we will open the program and features, then turn on Windows features, and then let's see if we have simple TCP/IP. It's not installed. Okay, so we can go further with the recommendations, and then the Telnet client must not be installed. So what is the Telnet? The Telnet, it's a kind of protocol that will be used to connect to a device remotely, but this kind of connection or kind of remote access will not be on a graphical interface. This will be through a command line. Okay, so for example, you can use the remote desktop connection manager to connect to a device remotely, and you can work on it using your graphical or using a graphical interface. But the Telnet is basically used to connect to a device remotely, but to work and manage it using the command line. Okay, this is widely used when you connect to a switch or to a router. Okay, most switches and routers that doesn't have any graphical interface, so this is the most common way to do this. So you don't need this kind of option to be available on your, or this option or this protocol to be available on your Windows 10 workstation, because you don't need anyone to connect to your Windows 10 using the command line, or you don't have, for example, any router or switch you need to connect to it through this workstation. Sometimes you can connect a router to your workstation and you need to connect to it using the Telnet. You can enable this option for a certain amount of time, and then after finishing configuring your Cisco router or switch, you can disable this protocol after that. So you need to make sure that the Telnet client is not installed by default. And let's also have a look what is the Telnet client. So also we can check here Telnet client. Okay, here we can go. So the Telnet is a great tool for developers and administrators to help manage and test network connectivity. Okay, however, it is disabled by default in Windows 10. So the Telnet Client is a tool for developers and administrators to help to manage and test network connectivity. So it can be used to connect to a device and manage it, and this is widely used in switches and routers, and it can be used also to test the network connectivity to a device. So this is a good way to test. It's a good tool to test and connect to a device. This can be used for a simple amount of time, so you can use it for a certain amount of time and then disable it, because this is a security issue. Okay, so here we will check and see if this service is enabled or not on my device. So let's go and see if we have the Windows features. Let's see if we have the Telnet Client installed on my machine or not. So let's go and see. We don't have the Telnet Client, so this is a good sign. Now let's continue and see if I have. There is something called TFTP. By the way, I will again stress on the point that most of these protocols does not support security features, okay, such as encrypting passwords or traffic. So you should use them for a certain amount of time in very limited times in certain situations, and then disable it completely or uninstall it after that. So what is the F or the TFTP? Let's also check the internet and see what is the TFTP. So it's a protocol which is used or allow a client to get a file from or put a file on a remote host. This is widely used when you need to transfer or get a file to a router or to a switch. This is mostly used in routers. If you need to upload a file to a router or transfer a file from a router, this can be done using the TFTP. So let me see, or let me show you all what is this. This is used for transferring files, but it is mostly used, let me show you all, it widely used as a small memory print. No, let me show you all here what is used for. Here we have what is the TFTP used for. Okay, transferring short configuration files to routers and other devices. So it is basically used, as I said before, to transfer and get files. So for example, if you have a configuration on a router and you need to get this configuration file, you can use the TFTP. Okay, if you need to have a configuration file to be uploaded to a router, this also done using the TFTP. So I don't need this kind of protocol activated on my machine only in certain cases. If I have a router attached to my workstation and I need to do some configuration on it now, or do some configuration or transfer configuration files or export configuration files, I can enable this protocol and then disable it after that. So this is number 2. Okay, let's see here. So this protocol also should be disabled. You can also see the Windows directory system or the C Windows folder, then system32 folder, and see if you have a TFTP client there or not. Or you can see the turn on Windows features, and let's see if we have the TFTP. Let's go further down. So now we can go there again. Okay, TFTP, so this is not installed. So now we can go further. Software certification and installation files must be removed from Windows 10. Here is saying that use of software certification and their accompanying installation files for end users to access resources is less secure than the use of a hardware-based certification. So here is saying that you need, if you need to access certain resources in your network, you should have a certification or a software certification to do this. He's saying that using a software certification to access resources in your network, it's not, or it is less secure than the use of hardware based certifications. Anyway, I don't see, or I didn't understand this point quite well, but he is saying that if you have files with the extension of P12 or PFX, that means that these files are software certifications, okay? But this does not apply to P12 or Oracle Wallet Manager or Adobe Pre-Flight certification files. Some applications create files with extension that are not certificate installation files. So anyway, he's saying that you should not use software certifications and their accompanying installation files for end users to access resources. I will check these two, or I have checked already these two extensions on my workstation, and I didn't find anything. So we can pass this real quickly. We can go here. Okay, I will check all of these. So I didn't find anything. So he is saying here that these extensions does not apply to Oracle Wallet. I think we don't have a workstation that has Oracle installed on it. Anyway, sometimes some applications have this kind of wallet installed. Some applications create P12. I don't have them. If you have this kind of certifications and they are not Oracle or Adobe Flight certification files, you should remove them, okay? This does not apply to server-based applications that have requirement for P2 certification files. He is saying Oracle Wallet again and Adobe. So there is some applications that require this kind of certifications to be installed, something like Oracle Wallet Manager and Adobe Flight certifications. Okay. Anyway, I didn't find this point on my machine, but it is good to know this kind of best practice. So I think we can go to the next point. So here I am checking also a host firewall must be installed and enabled on the system. So we have already a firewall, and this is obvious. We have the Windows Defender firewall, and this should be enabled on the workstations, and we have it already. So I have already a firewall. This point is already there. So we can pass this kind of recommendation. Inbound exceptions to the firewall on Windows 10 domain workstations must only allow authorized remote management. So he's saying here that incoming connections to the workstations of Windows 10 that have joined the domain should allow authorized remote management, must only allow authorized remote management. So there is some tools that are used to, or some authorized tools that are used to connect to the workstations of Windows 10 remotely. So we need to inform the firewall that they should allow certain remote management tools to connect to the Windows 10 workstations remotely. I will show you all a list of the inbound rules that I have configured on my firewall, okay, and I have pushed these configurations using my group policy. So I will show you all what are the inbound firewall rules that you should apply to your workstations that have Windows 10 installed on them in a domain. Okay, so let's see what are these rules. Okay, but anyway, he's saying that you need to allow authorized remote management rules. We will see. To apply these firewall rules, you can push them using a group policy. So we'll go and see the Windows Defender firewall security, and then we will see the inbound rules. I will show you all what are these rules. So let's go and see. Sorry. So I will go to the default domain policy. I have these rules configured on them. So let's go and see. Let's go there, and we will open the default domain policy, and then we will open the Windows Defender. Okay, and then we will open the inbound rules, the incoming connections to the workstation. Let's maximize it. So here we can see that we will have file and print sharing, so we can share folders on the machine, echo request, This is for pinging. So this, I think these two are enabled on the firewall, so you can enable pinging to the machine. So you tell the firewall to allow ping on the machine, and then you have file and print sharing to share printers and folders things. So all of these all of these 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, all of these 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, all of these 9 protocols or these services is allowed to bypass, or these protocols are allowed to bypass the firewall. So they are important for sharing folders and sharing printers and allow ping on the machine. So these are the inbound rules. Then we have the remote desktop. So we need to allow remote desktop connection to our workstations. So we need to enable or to tell the firewall to pass these services, remote desktop 1 2 3, and then we have remote scheduled tasks. So from this service 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, this are the protocols or services that you should allow on your firewall, so you can connect remotely to the machine and do a lot of things. You can do schedule tasks, you can manage the workstation remotely, and you can connect to the workstation using a remote desktop connection program. And then at the end we can see Windows management instrument. These three also are related to the managing remotely of the machine. So let's see, from this service to this service, all of these are related to connecting remotely to the machine. Okay, so we need to enable all of these services or protocols to bypass the firewall, and all of these protocols or services to bypass the firewall for sharing and pinging the machine. So all of these protocols or services should bypass your firewall and inbound. So these are all incoming protocols or incoming connections to your workstation. Okay, so and this should be pushed by a group policy. Okay, so we have seen all of these. So these are all protocols. You can see here, this is our protocols related to the printers and the files, and these are protocols related to connecting remotely to a machine, and these are protocols related to managing the machines remotely. Okay, so all of this should be enabled in the inbound rules. Okay, so as we can see here, this are all the rules that you should enable. Sorry guys, that you should enable on your firewall, inbound firewall rules. Okay, so if we can continue working here, we have something called data execution prevention. This is an option that you should enable on your Windows 10 workstation. What is the data execution prevention? We can see here data execution prevention. Okay, it is a security feature that can help prevent damage to your computer from viruses and other security threats in a very simple way. Okay, so this is a service that you enable on your Windows 10 workstation to secure or to help prevent damage to your computer from viruses and other security threats. So there is this question, should I turn off execution prevention? It's saying that it's not recommended to disable it, but it's up to you. You can switch off while you are playing and then switching it after you finish. Anyway, so we need to enable this kind of service on your machine. So let's see what is the recommendation. The recommendation, you must have data execution prevention, okay, configured at least to an option called opt-out. Okay, anyway, I don't know what is opt-out, but he's saying that this is an option you should enable because attackers are constantly looking for issues or vulnerabilities in your system, and data execution prevention prevents harmful attacking to the software and or the operating system and the programs, okay, by protecting your memory. Anyway, this is a very technical issue, but we need to check to see if the data execution prevention is enabled on my Windows 10 workstation and the option of opt-out is enabled. Take care, all of these recommendations in this PDF, you should test it very carefully and test it on a very long period, or take your time to test it for example 1 or 2 months. Anyway, take your time to test all of these settings, because sometimes it can do some damage if you don't test it thoroughly. So we will see if, for example, if we go to the command prompt and type this command, we will see if the data execution prevention it is enabled and it is on the option of opt-out. So let's see what this or we can see what is this option, so we can verify that the dep execution prevention. Let's see here if I go to my machine. So if I can go to this machine or my machine and then see if this option is enabled or not, we'll go to the properties and then go to the advanced setting, and then I think it's in the setting here, data execution prevention. So turn on, so it's already enabled, but we need to know if if it is enabled to the option of opt-out. Okay, so let's see what is the opt-out option. So what we mean by opt-out, execution preventer opt-out. Okay, on system with processor that can implement hardware or data execution prevent is enabled by default for limited system binaries and programs that are opt-in. With this option, let's see what is data execution opt-out. Okay, let me see here what he is saying to us. Always on and dep out with no exception. What is the difference between dep always on and dep opt-out with no exception? So let's see. Here there is a question and there is the answer. So opt-out, data execution prevention is enabled by default for all processes. So this is done to protect all your Windows services and processes. You can manually create a list of specified programs that do not have data execution prevention applied by using system dialog box in control panel. Information technology professionals can use the application compatibility toolkit to opt out one or more programs from dep protection. System compatibility fixes or shims for dep do take effect. So here is saying that you can exclude. So he is saying the default dep or the data execution prevention option is to opt-in. I think this is the one. Opt-in is to cover all of the system binaries of Windows by the data execution prevention. Output, it means that you exclude, I think, some of the Windows processes from the data execution prevention. Anyway, so this is an explanation what is the out or opt-out. Anyway, so we need to make sure it's already enabled but it's opt-in. Here is saying a recommendation to be opt-out. So let's go and see if we have this kind of option there. Okay, so here we will type this command, and by the way, you need to suspend BitLocker. If you have BitLocker on the machine, the changes to the data execution prevention configuration will not be done unless the BitLocker is suspended. So this is one of the things to take care. The data execution prevention can do some damage or can have some conflict with the BitLocker in a certain way. So let's see if we can go and check and see if we have the data execution prevention working on our machine. If we go and see, if you go to the machine, so let's go there and see. So we will right click and then run and then CMD and OK. Then we will type the command, but we need to remove the asterisk or the double quotation and press enter. Here we can see that the NX, this is the one related to the data execution prevention. It is opt-in, so he's saying for us you need to change it to opt-out. Okay, I don't know the differences, but you can check Google and see what is the meaning of this opt-in or opt-out. By default it is opt-in. He is saying that it is a recommendation to change it to opt-out. Okay, so you need to be very careful when you change this kind of option. Okay, anyway, so this is one of the recommendations, so we can go further and continue. So he's saying that this is a finding. If it is not change it to opt out, this is a finding. The most restrictive is always on, would not be a finding. Anyway, so the default is not always on or opt out, it's opt in. Okay, so you need to change it to opt out. Anyway, so we can go, and he is saying that you can check the setting. So you can go system data execution prevention, saying that output are configured in the window, turn on DEP for all programs and services except those I select are configured in the window. So he's saying that there is some applications or software that are excluded from the data execution prevention. Let's see, let me show you all out. Let me go to the PDF and see how we can configure it. So permissions, and let's see here. So internet service and simple protocol and Telnet FTP, and then the hardware, the host, firewall, inbound, and then the DEP. So let's go and see here. So application opt-out are configured in the window below the selection, turn on DEP for all programs and services except for those. So I think it is already selected here. I have it already installed. I have this option already configured, but you need to select out some programs to be executed or to be excluded from the DEP option. Anyway, we will continue. This is one of the points that I do not understand in this PDF, so we will continue. If you need to change the option, so you can type in the command prompt bc edit set current NX to output. So this will change it from opt in to opt out. Okay, so this is one of the things we can go and configure it, but I will leave it because actually I don't know what this option could do, so I will not change the option, but you can all welcome to test it and see the result. So anyway, we can continue to the other or the upcoming recommendation. Structures exception handling override must be enabled. So this is another option to be enabled on this machine. What is the SEHOP? Okay, this is something like to help you from hacking. But what is this? What is SEHOP? Let's see here. What is SEHOP? So this is what is SOP exploit, or what is SOP exploit. Let's see here. An attacker can overwrite with a control value the handler point. Okay, not so. I don't think this is what is SOP exploit. Okay, what is SOP? Stands for structure. So let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Okay, SOP, which stands for Structure Exceptional Handler and Override Protect. It's a security feature that Microsoft integrated into Windows Vista and Windows Server. So it's a long, or it's an old feature. It is enabled by default on Windows Server but disabled in Vista. So it is enabled on the server and disabled on the workstations. SOP was included in the next integration of Windows clients and servers, well enabled, so on. So this feature prevents attackers from exploiting certain software vulnerabilities to successfully attack a system. It is basically a meditation technique to prevent successful exploits of vulnerable software on the PC. Even if you update your PC and software as soon as your updates get released, you may still have vulnerability software on it when attackers find vulnerabilities that are not known yet, for instance. So he's saying that this is a kind of feature that you should enable to help you from attackers hacking your software or your operating system. So this is basically what is this option is. Okay, so let's see if this option is enabled. Okay, so he's saying that this option is applicable to Windows 10 prior to version 17.09. So we all know that Windows 10 have a lot of versions, so this option is applied to version or for Windows versions before version 17.09. So I think from this kind of saying that it is enabled by default in earlier or in upcoming versions of Windows 10. Okay, so for example, I'm using 18.09, so I think this option is turned on. So let's see, we can check if this option is enabled from the registry, or we can check it, I think, from the command prompt. So let's see if you have this kind of option enabled. So as we see here, these are all options to prevent hacking your operating system. So we can go and check if we see if this kind or this option is enabled, and you can see here that you can enable this option to your machines in your domain Windows 10 by applying it using a group policy. I will show you all that the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency PDFs, they include some group policies that you can import to your domain and add a couple of options to secure your network. So this MS Security Guide, this is a group of templates provided by the Ministry of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency. You can import it to your Active Directory or group policy templates and use it. And one of them is to enable structured exception handling override protection. We will see how I can import the Department of Defense group policies to my Windows templates and use them. So let's first see if we have this option enabled or not. We can go to the registry and check if we have this kind of option enabled or not. So let's go and see if we open our registry and see if we have something like this. So if you right click and then run and then cmd or sorry regedit and press enter, and then we need to go to a certain location in the registry to see if I have this kind of option enabled or not. We can go to current control set, system current control set, go to the system, okay, current control set, and then I think control, yes, and then control, and then session manager, and then control, and then session manager. If you go down to the S, go to the session manager, okay, and then kernel to see if we have this key. So to the session manager, go to the session manager, okay, and then we see if we have, let me go there to the kernel. So we need to open the kernel subfolder or subkey, kernel, okay, go to the kernel, okay, here you go, and then we see if we have something called disable, or we have a key called disable exception chain violation. We need to see this. If it's not there, then that means that our option SEHOP is not enabled. So how we can enable it? I will configure a group policy to enable this option on all Windows 10 workstations. So let me show you all how we can do this. Anyway, if we go to the registry, we will not see this kind of key. So if you go there, there is no something called disable key, or this disable, this is not there already. So we need to enable this option on our workstation. So we cannot see anything, so this key is not there. So we need to enable it on all of our Windows 10 workstation. Okay, so let's see if this could be done. But anyway, I think this is not applicable to my Windows 10 environment anyway, because this is prior to version 1709, so we don't need to apply it. Okay, so if you have Windows 10 version later or earlier than 1709, so you should apply this option. Okay, but it's already expired. This kind or this version of Windows are expired already. 1709 is already expired, and the earlier before 1709 is already expired. You have, I think, from 1909, these are all supported. Before 1909, all of them are expired and not working anymore. So I think we can pass this option, but anyway, I will show you all how you can do this. So we need to go and get the STG package, or go to the files that we have downloaded from the website of the defense, or the Department of Defense and Defense Information Security Agency. They have a package attached to the PDF files or the recommendations, and we will get this file and this file and put it to our group policy templates, so we can have these options enabled on the group policy. I will show you all what I mean by this. So let me show you all how we can do this. Anyway, just I need to have a look on something. So here we have 1 hour. I think we can go about 20 minutes. So let's continue. Here I will show you all how we can do this. So we'll go to the STG. I have some files. I will show you all these. I will show you all the files that I have downloaded from the website that contains the PDF or the recommendations, and some additional files or some additional group policy templates. So let's go and see. Here I will open my laptop. So here this is let me show you all something here. This is the file. This is a zip file, okay, that contains all of the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information Security or System Agency. These are all of the files or the PDFs, and they accompany group policy templates. So let me show you all how we can install the group policy templates for the Department of Defense in our group policy, or added it to our existing Windows group policy templates. So we'll open this file, and then we will open the extracted file. This is the Windows 10 files. We have here templates. Okay, this is the group policy templates. This is the PDF. We will open the group policy templates. Okay, and these are the files. Okay, we will add them to our group policy central store location. So we'll copy it. Okay, and then we will go. Remember the group policy central store location that we have created in the beginning of the lab. So we will close it, and then we will close this one. We will go and add. First of all, I need to copy and paste these files to my virtual machine. So right click and then new, and then put the folder, and then refresh. Okay, and then name it or whatsoever. You can leave it as it is, and then paste the group policy templates here. Okay, and then refresh. Okay, now we can go and open our group policy central store location. This is the location where all of our group policy templates are or reside. So we'll open sysvol, and then we will open the red alert internal, then policies, and then policy definitions. If we go down, okay, policy definitions, this is the location where all of our group policy templates are here. So we'll add it, or we add the ADMX files here, and the ADML files will be added here. Okay, so let's see how, after adding these two files or these files, what will happen. Just a moment. So now we will go and add the files. I think it's paused already. No, yes, it is paused. So we'll add the ADMX files. Okay, outside here we will add it here. Right click and paste. Okay, and the ADML files we will add it in the English US folder. Okay, so now we'll open English US folder, and then add these, the other two files. Okay, copy, and then we will add it here. So right click and paste. now we have, if we open our group policy or our group policy management console, we will see that there is a new section added to our group policies. If we for example open the default domain policy, or we will open the hardening or Windows 10 hardening group policy here, because we need to apply this to our workstations, not to our servers, to our workstations. So we will open it, and then if you go and open the policies and then administrative templates, okay, we will see here a new section. Just a moment. Here is a new section added, MS Security Guide and MSS Legacy. These two wasn't there before. Okay, we added them to our group policy templates. So we will open the security guide, and then we will apply enable structure exception handling override. And as I said before, this is for Windows 10 version 1709 and before version 1709. So I have in my domain 1809, and actually we'll have 20H2, so we don't need this kind of option to be configured. Anyways, you can enable this option. This is very simple, and there is a lot of things actually. This is not only this is a collection of group policies concerning the security. We will use them later to, for example, to disable SNMP protocol version 1. And actually by default SNMP protocol is disabled by default anyway, so we will enable this option. And then let's continue working with our PDF. So if you can go continue working, if you go down here, he's saying to us that PowerShell version 2 should not be enabled on our workstation. So by default Windows 10 you have PowerShell version 5 installed, okay, but still the PowerShell version 2 is on the machine, so we need to disable it because it doesn't have some security features, or it is a downgrade. What we mean by a downgrade, PowerShell 5 records all what is done on it in logs, but version 2 doesn't do this. So if there is a hacker and use the PowerShell 5 to do some hacking, you can see the logs and see what he has done. But if you are using PowerShell version 2, you will not be able to do this, and the hacker will use it to hack your machine, and you will not be able to trace his steps. So what we will do, we will make sure that Windows PowerShell version 2 is disabled on all of our Windows 10 workstations. How we can do this? We can do this using a PowerShell command. Okay, we will see first, we will display if PowerShell version 2 is enabled, and then we will disable it. So how we can do this? I think we can go very quickly. So here what we will do, we will go and type this one, get Windows feature online PowerShell. Here we can see that they are enabled, both are enabled. So we will type the command disable Windows optional feature PowerShell version 2. So now it is disabled. If we run the command again, both are disabled. So we will run the command to get the feature and see its status, and then we will run another command to disable the feature, and then we will run another command to to display the feature status, and now they are disabled. So this is one of the things for disabling the okay, I think we can go a little bit further here. So here another thing, guys, let me show you all something here. So if you can go to this one and we can continue working, this is disabled by default. PowerShell, we have already disabled it, and then we can go and see SNMP protocol should be disabled on the system. This is a protocol used to share folders, or its main function is to share folders between the machines. Okay, so there is a lot of versions, or there is different versions of this protocol. The weakest one of them is SNMP version 1. Okay, so you need to disable this protocol for sharing files. Okay, some very old devices use this kind of protocol to share files or to share things between them, so you need to disable it and use SNMP version 2 or version 3. So we need to take care that this protocol is disabled on our machine, okay, or our Windows 10. This is the first thing. We will go and see or run a protocol, or run a command to get if this feature is enabled, and then we will disable it. Okay, And by the way, this if you open the Windows features, this is not installed. I have seen this, you have all seen it. This is not installed on my machine. So this is a good way to know if you have SNMP version 1 enabled or not. By default it is disabled in Windows 10, but we will see, or let me go and check and see if it is disabled or not. So we can go there, and if it's not disabled, you can disable it from a group policy, from the MSS security guide, the one that you have installed already, and tell him to disable. But don't worry, it is already disabled in Windows 10 by default. So we can go further. So if you can see here, if you tell him get the SNMP protocol, it is disabled. So it's already disabled, you don't need to worry about this. So we can continue working. We'll do it from the hardening. So we can go, if it's not disabled, we will go to the hardening group policy and go to MS security guide and configure SNMP server to disable. I think I'll show you all how we can disable the SNMP protocol completely. So if you go there and open the MS security guide here, okay, this one, not this one. So what we'll do, we need to disable the three: disable SNMP version 1 server, disable SNMP client driver, configure I think maybe this one also to disable it. Let me show you all, or let me see what we can do with this one. So if you can go further, let me show you all what I mean by this. Here if you go to the PDF, it is saying that okay, it is already disabled, so this is one, and then you need to disable the SNMP server. Okay, I have shown you all this one. So we can go and configure SNMP server to disable. I think this is, we have already seen this. Disable, it's already disabled. I think this is disabled. It is not configured, you need to make it disable. Okay, and then we need to go further and also disable the SNMP client. Okay, so this is done also using the SNMP client. You can check if the SNMP is enabled or not through the registry also and through the command prompt. But anyway, I will show you all from this. You need to configure to SNMP client to enable. What is this? Configure SNMP client to enable, not disable, with disable driver recommended. So you will enable configure SNMP client. You will go there, enable configure SNMP client. This is one, configure SNMP client, and tell him to disable driver. Okay, so let me show you all how this will be done. So if you go further, let me show you all this one. So if you go further here, okay, and here we can see that okay, configure SNMP version 1 client driver, disable driver. So this will disable SNMP. Okay, so this is one of the things. Let me see how we are doing. Okay, I think we can have a couple of things to work now. So we have done this. Let's go to the other recommendation. So here there's one thing. Let this be our last thing to discuss in this video, and we will do part 3 for the remaining. We need to disable secondary login service on the Windows 10. What is the secondary login service? This provides a means for entering alternative credentials typically used to run commands with elevated privileges. So what I mean by this, if you are for example logged in with a standard user account and you need to change something to the configuration of the machine while logging in with this standard user account, you will not be able to do this. So you need to alternatively use another username and password. So this service enables you to do this. So you can run administrator password while logging in with a standard user account. Okay, this is done typically when we are working with a lot of machines in our network. Okay, but this is a security breach, so you need to make this service disable. Okay, I will show you all. It's in its default it's to be manual, not disabled. Okay, so it is not started. You should start it manually, but it is a best practice to disable it. Okay, he's saying here that not disable or running is a finding. Okay, so let's see. if you go to the services, so you run and then type services, and then we will see if it's already there or not. So if you go and type run and then services, right click and run and then services, you will see if the service, so here is the services, then we can go to service or secondary login. Okay, secondary login, here is it. It is set to manual. It's or not started, but it can be started manually. Here is saying that you need to disable it completely. Okay, so we will open it, okay, or right click and change it to disabled. Okay, so we will right click and change it to disabled. Okay, using privilege condenser in a standard session can expose those credentials to theft. Okay, so we will go and disable this kind of service. So right click and then properties, okay, and then we will tell him to set it to disabled. Okay, okay, so you will set it to disable and then tell him apply and okay. Okay, so let me show you all this. Okay, so anyway, let's stop at this minute. It's 1:15:51. Okay, we have about 30 minutes left, or about 30 minutes. So I will discuss the remaining of the PDF in the part 3, and this is only, I think we will need to have not only part 3, we need to have part 3 and part 4 and part 5, because this is a long PDF. Anyway, hope this video will inform to you all. Stay tuned for the next PDF or the next recommendations or the next part. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.